Hi, my name is Matteo, and this is my VR lap at Detroit Belle Isle. Alright, and there was 126.5. Okay, so we can go back to the beginning of the lap. It should be, yeah, pretty much here, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the general notes about this lap. First of all, the most important thing, which is this. Yep, I have no idea what I'm doing. No, really, but the track is new, very new, and I had to. I was planning to put out the video a little bit earlier because I didn't run the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring. Um, so I spent more time practicing, and I was planning on release the video early on Sunday or Monday, but then I found out that this track was pretty impossible to run around. It's one of the most difficult tracks that I have, that I know, and probably it's one of my most hated. I mean, I thought Road Atlanta was stopping it, but this one, boy, this is really something. Okay, so I got some suggestions from the forum last week about keeping some notes. So I have some notes here. You can hear them. So maybe I can keep this tighter this time and avoid to make a 1 hour video again. Okay, so now, seriously, these are the track conditions. So 29 degrees, 26 degrees of air, 29 for the track, late afternoon, just a little bit of wind. And it was the official time trial. So this is 2018 season 3. So in case you're racing this later in the year, or maybe in some years or whatever, you know that these are the conditions. Anyway, I have to say that I haven't seen that much difference between conditions and grip levels and everything, because the track is just so bumpy that the the tires are pretty much flying off the ground most of the time. So the main difference is just in air temperature, because the hotter it is, and the hotter the engine runs, so it's less efficient, and you'll just be slower when it's hotter. Plus, I think there will be some aerodynamic lacking, but I don't know how relevant is this. I do run a very high aerodynamic setup here, I have to say, which is 3118 wings. and I'm also running a very high differential. So in the general notes that I've written here, one of my points says exactly this, that you need to relearn how to drive the car, because so far I got, let's say, used to the fact that you can just slide the car in and then open as soon as you hit the apex or just before the apex. Never keep the car coasting, for example. So you're either braking or accelerating all the time and sliding the car and controlling the slide and whatever. But in this track, I found out that the safest and fastest way to get around is actually to put differential very, very high. So I'm running 77. I've seen some 80 and 90 around, and they're very comfortable. So what you're doing with setting the differential so high is you're telling the car to understeer when you're coasting, which is completely the opposite of what you would want to have during a normal track. So you want to be to fight the natural understeer that you get on the entry of the corner, and you want to have the car be more stable on the exit so you can just open it up. But in this case, it's the opposite. You want to have the differential locked down when you're coasting so you can use it to your advantage. So if you want the car to turn in, you brake, you brush brake. And if you want to have the car slightly sliding on the outside while you're exiting the corner, you just push the throttle. But most of the time in this track, you will want, and we'll see that later, you will want the car to be stable. And you achieve that by coasting. You lift, you don't brake, you just throw the car in. So the bumps will not annoy you, will not upset the car will be stable, you will use your whole aerodynamics, and that will be hopefully for the best. More notes about this truck. It's a survival truck, so I've set a 126.5 here, which is kind of fast, not super fast of course because you've seen 124s, but it's fast for any non-alien driver out there. So I wanted to put out a 127, which looked fast enough to me. Then I got this 126.5, so I said, okay, whatever. But I think that in this track, you shouldn't look for performance. Don't look at that. Just turn off your delta bar. Don't think about anything else, because this is everything about this track is about survival. Especially now that it's a new track and people is still learning the track. So just as an example, yesterday or 2 days ago, I was in a 16 cars race, and I hit a car that slide in front of me. It spun right in front of me, so I couldn't do anything. That's another problem of this truck. There's no way around the incident. So if you have an incident coming, you will probably hit it. So I just touched the car, but it broke my wing. I was lost. I was running in the 130, 131, so it was pretty slow, while everybody was running in the 125, 127. I got a couple of cars behind after a couple of laps, and I said, okay, let's run the injury league and just keep the car on track. I just want to bring it home. I don't care about anything else. I just turn everything off, the relative off, the delta bar off. I just wanted to drive the car and just drive it home. Just finish the GP. And surprisingly enough, the cars behind me started crashing out. Then the cars in front of me started crashing out. And then on the last lap, I found myself sixth, and I was like 16th, 14th, something like that. And I was sixth. And on the last lap, another car crashed right in front of me. So I finished fifth by running with a broken car that was broken since turn 3 on lap 1 and lapping on the 130, 131. So it was really high. So this says really much about this track. So don't look for performance, just look for survival. Of course, you don't have to exceed it. Just don't go very slow, or you will be a hazard for other driver. But just focus on keeping the car on the track. Don't touch the walls. Try not to touch the walls, even if it's a 0x incident. Even because if you, for any reason, if you're running a private league, if you have to make a pit stop, there will be 10-15 seconds taken off of your pit stop just for mandatory repairs. So just don't touch the walls. Stay far away from the walls as you can. Um, so yeah, another thing is that this is a very difficult track to overtake. So you either are very fast compared to the car in front, you have big balls, or it will be a nightmare. Even just following a car, especially on turn 5. In turn 5, we've run some tests with my team today, and in turn 5 it's very difficult to not spin in that corner. And I've spun in a race as well while I was following another car. You get there, you don't have aerodynamics, and it just, the back just slides off, and then you're into a wall. And if you're not into a wall, then there's a car coming from the back that's running onto you. So even you can really feel the oversteer kicking in. At least this is with my setup. Even 1 second and a half away from the car in front. So this is very difficult. It's a very difficult track to follow a car. So try to take it easy and keep your distances from the car in front unless you're very much faster than them. And another thing that you need to do, especially on the race and during free practices and qualifying, you really have to take it easy on the first 1 or 2 laps. The first lap, you have to be very easy on the throttle, easy on the brakes, keep the car running a bit slower because you have to ramp up the temperatures for the tires and for the brakes. And this has a major impact on the car compared to any other track where you're just a bit slower, or you have to just be a little bit more careful during the first lap. But on the first lap here, you have a completely different car. And second lap also, you cannot push. You can't push. You have to wait at least till lap 3 or lap 4. So, with this said, my notes here says that we're done, and we can start with the turn-by-turn commentary. So we can start with turn 1 and 2. This is turn 1 and 2. Turn 1 and turn 2. Okay, what do you have to do? Oh, sorry. Okay. First of all, you brake around the 200 meter mark. It should be 250, and if your tires are really hot and you feel very grippy, you can start moving towards the 230, 220. So you can see it's 300, 250 here, and I'm already braking. You don't brake too much. You go one gear down, so from sixth down to fifth. And at this point, you have two objectives. You have to keep the speed up. So that's what I meant when I was saying that you have to relearn on how to drive the car. Um, because this turn here, you have to keep the speed up and hit your marks. And at the same time, the objective is to stay as much as possible on the inside rather than the outside when you're getting out of turn 2, because you have to get over the crest. And if you get over the crest and the car is too much on the outside, then you will just jump away and you will lose the back. I will show you to you now. So 250 mark, pretty much. One gear down, you keep the speed up. Don't go full throttle and use the differential. And what I mean with this is that you will have troubles steering in if you have a high differential setup, as I was suggesting before. So what you want is to keep the throttle open when you're turning in, which you don't really do normally. You want to keep the throttle open so you unlock the differential so the car can slide in. But of course, then you have to move the weight onto the other side because you're turning into from turn 1 to turn 2, since this is pretty much a chicane. And at the point, you have to lift, move the weight to the other side, and then put the foot down again to regain speed and open again the differential. If you feel that the car is turning too much, lift a little bit or just completely lift. Easy, don't just let go of the pedal, otherwise you would spin. And as you can see here, I'm keeping the foot down, not too much, don't go full throttle, that's a bad idea. And what you want to do is to take the mark here for the apex, then you move on to the other side, you lift, move, and then put the foot down again. Try to stay close to the curb, but don't go over it because that can be dangerous. It's bumpy already, this track as it is, so don't go over the curbs. You don't really need that. And then when you go over this crest here, lift a little bit and try to keep the steering wheel straight so the car will go this way as much as you can, and then you can start steering again when you're off the cliff. So that's why you need to close the turn even more here. You're still turning here, then you go, you see, over the crest with the steering wheel straight and the car going this way here, and then as soon as you're off the cliff, there was just a little lift here to avoid spinning. And when you're but I mean, this turn here that I've taken was very fast. You don't need to go this fast, you can just take it a little bit easier. That was a hot lap, really. So I would never do this in a race because I know that I will crash one time or another. So when you're on this side, it was really close to the wall, you start straightening up again so you can move the car over to the left side and heading down to turn 3, which is actually the easiest turn of the track, and also a nice spot where to overtake. So you brake at the 300-meter mark. Let's say you start braking from there, but as soon as you get your tires warmer, you can start braking later up until around 250 meters. So that's really a confidence thing that you have. Just remember never to brake after the 300 meters on the first lap, because you won't make it. You will just spin or go straight. But after the first lap, you can start braking later. I brake here at 2 and 75 or something like that, so that's enough. Threshold braking here, you go 4 down to second, but actually you go the better way to count it would be 3 down to third, and then I put it way too early here. And when you're at the apex and you're exiting the corner, you can go 1 more down to second while opening up. So when you're here, actually you go down to second, you open the gas again. This is pretty much the most normal corner of the track. So you open again and you're off the hairpin. Another thing, don't use the 7th on the straight. Unless you're overtaken and you're drafting, don't use the 7th. You're just slowing down. It's not enough space to use the 7th. So now we're going into turn 4, which is still kind of an easy corner, a little bit tricky because the wall is really close while you go out. So the braking mark is pretty much this billboard here. At least this is what I look, because I look at the apex. I don't know, maybe somebody will watch here, but I wouldn't suggest it, because you want to watch here at the apex. So this zone here would be a pretty good place to start braking, still based on grip and confidence. And what you want to do is just to brush brake. So you slide the car in, you keep it in fourth, and then you just open the gas when you're completely straight. This is very important throughout the whole track. It's very bumpy, so you want to open the throttle, plus you have a very high differential, so when you're exiting a corner, it will open up really much and it will probably spin. So open the throttle just when you're straight. So you're brush braking and you're off. Turn 5. This turn is the killer turn. This is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. So what you want to do is get to... There's a kink here on the wall. I think it's here. You will see it better while racing, probably even better with VR. But there's a kink here between... It should be this one. The wall is turning in, and then there's a billboard here. You want to brake in this zone here. So still based on confidence and grip. You want to brake here if it's a cold lap, and closer to not at the billboard unless you're an alien, but closer to here if you're in a hot lap. You go 1 down to third, and to avoid spinning here because it's very bumpy, and if you don't have strong force feedback wheel, so if you don't have the hardware, you will probably not feel it. I don't know that, but I just changed my wheel now. I just bought a Fanatec. I had a Logitech DFGT. So with the Logitech I couldn't feel it, while with the Fanatec was very clear where the turning point was. So let me get there. I had a bit of a wobble here, unfortunately, so you can't see it perfectly well, but I will try to explain it to you. So you brake hard on the pedal, as you can see, down to third. Okay, the wobble, and then you start turning. When you're turning, if you have enough force feedback, you will feel the force getting stronger, and then at one point it will just pluck lock into place, like if it's on a rail or something. So it will be harder to go further down or to go further up. That is exactly the place where you want the wheel to be. So even if you have a lighter force feedback, I really suggest you to pay attention to this phenomenon here, because if you steer less than this, then the wall will wait for you. If you steer more, then you oversteer and spin into this side here. And when I realized this, I found out that this turn was much easier to take in a constant way, in a consistent way. So really try to pay attention to when your steering wheel will lock into place, and just keep the locking. You can see that I just kept the locking until, okay, the wobble here, and then it's locked there, and then I move away. Okay, so now we're going to, of course, just open the gas when the car is straight, of course. Then now we're on turn 6, which is kind of challenging, because one, it's type 1 corner according to iRacing catalogation, which means that it's a corner before a straight. So you want to open the gas as soon as possible. You want to compromise the entry to open the gas as soon as possible. But it's very, 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 very bumpy. So what you want to do is to do your best because you won't be able to open the gas until you're straight. Otherwise you will either go into the wall or oversteer or have a wobble, so you will just lose time. So just try to launch the car in, throw the car into the corner, okay, as fast as you can, and then open the gas when you're out of it, which is something kind of that I did here. I'm sure that you can do better than me, but anyway, okay. The braking mark is this black billboard. Based on grip and confidence, it should be between this point here, which could actually be a bit of overdriving. Check your delta if you're trying to brake here, because you might be braking too late. Unless you're doing it right, then you will be much faster. But anyway, this billboard here, let's say from half of here till here, it's a good braking point. Okay, so stay away from the walls. Don't try to go too near to them, because you will touch and then you will crash, and it's not pleasant. You will ruin your race. Go one down into third as soon as you can. I also try to go down on the downshift here at the apex, but I found out that if you do it as soon as you brake, it gets a bit easier. So maybe you can experiment with that. Maybe just delay the downshift a little bit. And here again, you can see how bumpy this is. The car is just bumping all around. I'm not on full throttle. I'm waiting to be clear of the wall and to have the wheel straight. So now it's straight. Move to the right to use the shortest way. And here, you on a normal track, you would want to go straight on this side here, but you have to delay that a little bit, because there's another kink here on turn 7, going into turn 7. So what you really want is to have the car as straight as possible when you're braking. So you're delaying, you're turning onto the left, because you see, you want to brake here in this direction, not in this direction, because this is another very nice thing about this track. Of course, I'm sarcastic. Okay, this is the 300 mark. You can also move the braking zone further to the 200 mark if you're good at it. But another thing not so funny about this track is this curb here that it's almost invisible with these light conditions. So you have to just remember what it is. When you start braking, this is pure threshold braking. You just have to push the brakes as hard as you can until just a little bit before you start locking. Not here, I've locked quite a bit, as you can hear. Well, maybe I didn't lock. It was just heavy grip. You go 3 down to third from 6th, and the turn itself is pretty okay. It's not that difficult. The difficult thing is the exit, because it's narrowing down, and actually the braking zone here is not bumpy at all, so that will help having consistent braking here. So this is the invisible curb here. Don't go inside. This is out of the truck. You have to stay here. And you can also go on the curb a little bit, but you will bump out. The car will just almost fly off. You will lose a little bit of time, but it's less than you would think. I mean, even if you bump out and you bounce off and blah 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 and whatever, but you're on a hot lap, you can still recover. I mean, it's not like some of those curbs that you bump over them and the lap is done. If you bump over it, you're still in the game. Even if you see the car 45 degrees into the air, you can still do it. So don't just go for it if you're there. So this is where the track is narrowing down. So you want to keep on turning and have a speed that will allow you to keep on turning. I've already opened the gas here, of course, but I was very close. I would not recommend doing this on a race. Keep more space between the car and the wall. Then when you get here on turn 8, this is also a bit challenging. You want to start braking at the second kink here. You see there's one kind of a kink here, this, and then a second one here, and you want to start brake here. It has to be a light short brake, because what you want to do is to throw the car into the corner at the fastest speed possible. Just lift and let the car in. Don't touch the brakes, don't touch the accelerator. You see? I'll show it to you again. You throw the car in. I can slow it down. You throw the car in. You stop giving any input except for the wheel, which you have to turn inside very hard. Yes, you can go. You see, I'm just throwing the car in, and then as soon as I'm out, I start accelerating. I don't go full throttle until I'm straight and out of the corner, as you can see. So this is another corner that it can really teach you the use of the differential, especially in a setup that is so extreme like this one. Okay, so turn 9 is kind of slippery. You will probably want to take it full throttle, but I suggest you to lift just a little bit to keep some reserve grip, just like 80%, 90%, like this. Try to leave the car going outside a little bit. I've started braking a little too early here because here would have been a bit better. You go one down into turn 10 and be careful because this is another killer turn. Now the point is that if you brake too late when you're getting into the corner, you will spin. You'll spin out. So you want to brake lightly, go down one gear. The mark should be here, somewhere around here before the apex, based on confidence. Don't try to overdrive. And what you want to do is to coast the turn into the wall, so it will be easier to take turn 12, turn 11. And you can use, as I told you before, the throttle to help turning in, so you don't coast, and also by accelerating, you're taking your lap times down, of course. So you accelerate and be very careful. You have to start braking pretty much here when the curb is over, but you have to do it with the car straight and heading kind of into this direction like this. Okay, if the wheel is not straight, you will go into the wall, so be very careful about this. This is another turn that where you can earn a lot of time, or where you can also completely destroy your race. So from here on, you brake, you go one down to second, you throw the car in again, you can open just a little bit to help turning in. You have two dangers here now. One danger is this wall here, which is closer than you think. And the second danger here, I've seen this in the replays while I was doing the setup. I was checking if I was bottoming out because I kept on losing the car here. And what I found out, and I encourage you all to do the same, to take the camera tool, move the camera, the chase camera down on the ground level. And when you get here, what you will see is that both the inside tires will be into the air completely for half a second or something like that. So when you're here, there's a hole in the ground here and you're flying over this piece of asphalt here. That's why you will probably spin out and crash into this wall, or you will lose grip and go into this side here. So you don't want to start accelerating full throttle until your wheel is straight and you're out of this section here, so you have all the four wheels down on the ground. And now we're going into turn 12, which is kind of an okay turn, not super difficult. It will be very easy for you to try to overdrive this turn here, and you will think that it's actually working, which is not. What you want to do is to reach the 200-meter mark. A little bit before that, you go two down into third. A little bit before. You can really start braking much later than here. Okay? But the thing is that if you start braking later, you will find yourself accelerating, opening the gas later than the apex. But what I found out that is the most effective in this turn is to brake earlier, get down into third, get onto the apex, and then start opening the gas as soon as possible, because then you have a long straight in front of you and you want to be on the gas as soon as possible. Another way that I've seen this turn taken by an alien was to just throw the car into fourth gear, it still braked around the 200-meter marks actually. You throw the car, you get a very high apex speed, and then when you're close to the wall here, you open the gas. So you start opening the gas later than I do here. So, but I still think I tried to do that, and I couldn't pull it out. So I don't know if it was the replay a bit crooked or something. But what I've seen that is working for me is exactly this: keep it on third, open a bit before the apex, and then avoid the wall. And another thing that you want to do is to keep the car here. If you get it too slow, it will be a bit easier to have the car heading this way. But you have to prepare for the next corner. If you don't do it correctly, it can end your race or you can lose a lot of time. So you want to keep the car as close to the wall, not too close to the wall, but I mean heading towards this line here. Okay, so you see I'm correcting again to move to the left. So you start moving towards turn 13, which this is based on grip and setup. You could take this turn full throttle, but it depends on your setup. So I had a setup at the beginning that let me take this turn completely full throttle, and it wouldn't care less. And then when I moved away from there and started messing around, I gained time in the rest of the track and found out that on this turn I had to lift a little bit, as you can see here, not that much, just a little bit, to avoid spinning out. And still, as you can see here, I'm still correcting it here, because when I'm opening again, the car is moving away, the back of the car is moving away, so I'm saving it, kind of. It's more like I'm saving it at every lap, so it's part of the lap, saving the car, you see. And that's it. This completes a lap. And look what happens when you overdo the the crest over there. You crash into the wall, but you've probably seen it yourself already. Okay, hope I've been a bit more tired on the timings, and that my notes helped being a bit more on point on what to say and how you receive these informations. So I hope this helped, and again, stay safe on this track. Don't look for performance. Just try to survive and get to the end, and you will see that points will arrive. All right, see you on track. Bye.